Hello everybody and welcome to the Toyota Land Cruiser Club of Australia. We're here in beautiful New South Wales. I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Reki. We're here going to talk to you a little bit about four-wheel driving, the basic of four-wheel driving with this beautiful Hilux SR.
Firstly, let's talk about four-wheel drives. Four-wheel drives and all-wheel drives are not the same. All-wheel drives are basically tyres that are driven with all wheels at all time. Four-wheel drives, generally speaking, have a transfer case, and we'll talk about that in a moment. First of all, let's talk about what we have here in the four-wheel drive system with the Hilux.
As you hop into the car, this beautiful Hilux SR, you will find dial to give you access to the four-wheel drive. You see the dial with 2H, 4H and 4 low. Now the 2H is the higher range two-wheel drive, which is city drive.
Absolutely, and then if we're going off-road and we've got a bit of a dirt track to go on, we can flick it over to 4H, and that's basically like a four-wheel drive but in high range. So we don't generally use that when we're going on-road because we need a little bit of slip. It's working a little bit differently. We've got a centre diff lock now which is engaged, and it's providing power distributing equally between the front and the rear axles. And then if we want something a bit more serious, we can go from 4H to 4L. Whenever we're selecting between 2H, 4H and 4L, there's one thing we do need to do. We need to actually stop the vehicle. So going between 2H and 4H, let's stop, put the car into neutral, turn the dial into 4H. The same thing applies when we're going from 4H to 4L. Isn't that right, Ricky?
That's correct. The safest thing for you to do, Jeremy, from sealed road to unsealed road is make your turn and then stop the car and switch the dial from 2H to 4H.
Absolutely, and what that does is basically we're now getting even power distribution between the front and the rear axles. Very, very similar to 4L, except the next step would be to go from 4H to 4L if we're getting to something a bit more serious. So doing that, we're reducing the gearing once again in the vehicle.
Now, when you are in 4L, you don't need to drive fast. You just need to drive slow, get through the obstacle or whatever it is, the challenge the terrain's giving you, and then once you're over that challenge, hop it back into 4H and then keep your driving.
One thing that's really, really crucial when it comes to off-roading is your tyre pressure. So firstly, equip yourself with one of these, the tyre pressure gauge, and if you're going off-road, you're going into 4H, you can reduce your tyre pressures down by about 10% to make things a bit more comfortable. And then we're going to something more a bit serious than 4H and we're going into 4L where we need a bit of extra traction. What do we do then, Ricky?
Well, you can decrease your tire pressure more by up to 20% because this will give you a little bit more grip onto the road, traction for your tire, so as well as protection. Because when it goes over some sharp rock, the tire will just mold into those rock and your tire obviously have less chance to get punctured.
Exactly right, and we get a bit more grip as well. So if we're going to buy one of these and we can get the air out of the tyre, what do we do to get the air back in the tyre?
Well, this is when you need the air compressor. You definitely need it to get your tyre back up to the highway pressure.